So now that you've read some information about what advocacy is and what it's intended to be used for, let's talk a little bit about refining what it is that the the community is that you're going to be addressing, or the condition of occupational injustice, or the occupational justice cure that you're going to be advocating about. Community profiling is something we've already discussed, and these are just a few more questions that you might want to use in guiding a conversation you might have with a stakeholder, or in information that you're looking for in research literature, on a website, in a community's epidemiological statistics, things like that. I mentioned do in terms of something that you might have to do in terms of profiling the community, and you may have to do whatever it is that these participants are striving to do, or are engaged in, or maybe just to spend some time and realize what the limitations are, because there isn't the ability to do for this particular population or community. So I think these questions hopefully will help you frame the issue that you're going to be advocating about. The but why technique is something where, if you read the article that I asked you to read that looks at a framework of occupational justice or injustice, I can't remember the title now, it was a required reading from the first week. If you read through the examples, there was reference to the but why technique. So essentially, let me show you what that is. Actually, let me go back first. Let me tell you about it a little bit. It basically is just a strategy to help you kind of frame what the root cause of an issue is, or of an issue basically. So it's not going to be the end all be all of, oh my gosh, this is exactly why there is poverty in this community. But it gets your mind thinking, and it's a bit of the devil's advocate that I've been playing with some of you in emails that you've sent me, where you've sent me questions and I responded back with, okay, so what's the condition that you're responding to? Okay, so what occupationally is a person unable to do? So this is a bit of another angle at really breaking things down and figuring out what is it what's making my intuition say I want to be involved with this community, or I want to advocate for this population. So here's an example. Works in terms of, you just keep asking, but why? But why? The immediate problem, children aren't going to school. Why? They keep getting sick, falling ill, as I guess we would say here. Possible response, provide medicines, and maybe that's the cure. Okay, maybe that's the advocacy. But the question is, why are they getting sick? They drink bad water. So what's the response? Maybe you got to dig a well. Okay, so why? Well, the well is too far from the school. So why? If we wanted to, now get a well closer. The local government said it would dig a well last year, but it hasn't. Okay, but why? Big government hasn't released the funds. But why? The ancillary donors haven't released the pledge funds. So if you can see that if you keep getting down to it, the advocacy here might be, well, we either have to go around the funders and dig the well some other way, or we need to get at these bilateral donors to give big government the money so that big government can pass the money to the community so they can dig the well, so the kids can have fresh water, so the kids can actually stop getting sick and actually go to school. So hopefully this is just a little exercise you can do with yourself, and we can play around with this as well next week in tutorial. Hold on, clicking to my next. So how are you going to be an advocate? Just a few pointers. The reference here is, I think it's in the first slide, is the official reference, or I'll make sure that I give it to you, is just chock full of information on a bit of an advocacy toolkit. There's 3 of them that I refer to in this information, so I'll make sure you have the references for those. One of the main things that you want to make sure of is to check your facts, because you've got to be credible. This is where the evidence comes in handy, and this is where you'll be challenged in terms of being able to really justify that there is truly a problem. Evidence isn't the only way to check your facts and maintain your credibility. This is where understanding the actual community themselves and the population that you might be advocating for comes in handy. Because if you get up and try to promote something for that group and you're actually speaking in front of any of those members of the community and you haven't checked your facts, you're going to lose credibility immediately. Okay? Have a plan and work the plan. Just like you would with any other treatment plan or any other intervention plan, you got to know, how are you going to use the intervention? What are you aiming for? What are your goals and how are you going to get there? So I'm going to show you some information specifically on reminding you how we might set goals in the clinical world and how it works just the same here in an advocacy plan. So you want to have a plan and then you want to work the plan systematically. Begin with the end in mind. This is actually a quote a bit from Stephen Covey, who was a leading self-improvement leader in the United States. He passed away, I think, maybe 2 years ago now. Some of you might have read The 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. So he's written several books, or had written several books on this. So begin with the end in mind was, I think, habit number 2, or I think it was number 2. It really means that you got to see where you want this plan to take you. What do you envision happening? And then you work backwards from there. It's about really having that goal or that big vision and that mission that you're going after. And nothing that you're doing in this class has to be tremendously, earth-shattering. It doesn't have to be meet with the Prime Minister. It could be just, I'll show you actually an example at the end. I won't even brainstorm right now. I'll give you an example at the end of this presentation. You want to be able to frame your message. So in a nutshell, you want to be able to say what it is you're doing. For instance, I worked with a group of, older adults that were living in the community. And while they weren't necessarily experiencing any injustice, one of the messages that I promoted was how to indulge in healthy pleasures. And so that was the sort of in a nutshell the message: indulge in healthy pleasures. And another one that I had done for women who were working in offices, and I had gotten word that there was a collective group of just one of the symptoms they were feeling was just fatigue, particularly upper body fatigue. And aside from the ergonomics, one of the things that I noticed in spending some time observing is how poorly women carried things. Always too many bags, always on one shoulder. So I actually wrote a presentation and delivered it called How to Pick the Best Bag for Your Body, and designed a rating system for women to be able to figure out how their bag fits their body. I wouldn't necessarily put those in this category of advocating against occupational injustices, but again, they're just examples that I have readily available in my brain to frame a message. And create media-worthy interest. This is something where, as you get into this, you'll kind of figure this out if you actually enjoy advocating. And some of you have probably done some of this or have seen things happening. When I talk about AIR and the Bounce Back exhibit, usually that falls within Mental Health Awareness Week. And so you want to see if you can create an advocacy campaign around timely events or around a human interest story, things that the media would be interested in. Because if the media is interested in it, then the public's probably going to be interested in it. And basically what you're doing with advocacy, if you go back to the very beginning, you're standing by the side of this community. And you are standing for them, and you are calling to action some other stakeholders in the community to respond, so that there's policy change or an event that can change, or environmental change or social change. So keep timeliness of event planning that you have in mind might align with holidays, and might align with particular momentous weeks like OT week, or even just holidays. Let's see. I think I'm going to go stop here. Yep, we're going to stop here.